My name is Shraddha Hegde. I'm a principal engineer with Juniper Networks in their routing protocols group. So I'll be talking about the seamless segment routing architecture. So this is mostly for the transport networks, transport IP MPLS networks. So when the network consists of large number of nodes, they are segregated into multiple IGP domains. So we need a mechanism to connect these IGP domains together so that you can get an end-to-end path. And seamless MPLS is a widely deployed distributed network architecture that uses BGP LU protocol to provide end-to-end connectivity across these multiple domains. So, so why do we really need something more than what seamless MPLS could already provide? So the because of the traffic growth due to 5G and IoT and so on, the number of devices in the network is growing, and also the requirements on the transport network is changing. For example, you need end-to-end network slicing in case of 5G. So you need multiple paths across your network. So one is probably one is low cost path and another is low latency path. So you need the ability to create multiple paths, end-to-end paths across your multiple domains. So we need a natural upgrade to this seamless MPLS architecture. So segment routing is a technology which uses lesser number of protocols, and it is operationally very simple. So we have an immediate solution with segment routing. So we'll see what exactly is seamless segment routing in the next few slides. So this slide is talking about in detail about seamless MPLS architecture. So you can see that the network is organized into multiple domains. The core network is one IGP domain. The Metro 1 and Metro 3 are different IGP domains. So the requirement here is to be, so your PEs are located in Metro 1 and Metro 3. So you should be able to get a end-to-end path from PE1 to PE5. And the way seamless MPLS architecture would provide this is using BGP LU. So you can see that there are IBGP and EBGP connections across the domains. And then BGP LU would provide a labeled connectivity from PE1 to PE5. And then the services, L2 VPN, L3 VPN, or any service would run only on the PEs and not on any border nodes. So this is an architecture that is highly scalable. It's widely deployed in large scale networks, which consist of multiple IGP domains. So what is seamless SR, right? So segment routing is a technology which provides with lesser number of protocols MPLS connectivity end to end. For example, you need not have the LDP and RSVP protocols. The IGP itself will advertise labels and provide you MPLS connectivity within your domain. For example, here the core has been upgraded to segment routing SRTE, which is a traffic engineering solution with segment routing. And then the Metro 3 has been upgraded to provide segment routing best effort path using ISIS segment routing. So, and then this Metro 1 remains as an LDP domain. So seamless segment routing provides an end-to-end connectivity in this kind of networks with BGP LU and also with BGP prefix ID. So BGP prefix ID is an extension to BGP LU wherein the labels are deterministic. In BGP LU, the labels, like you can imagine, like from PE5, if you are advertising a prefix from PE5 to ABR7 and then from ABR7 to ABR5, the label changes at every border node in case of BGP LU. So let's say PE5 advertised a label 1000, And then on ABR7, another label 2000 would be advertised from ABR7. And when ABR5, and again the labels would change. So whereas in BGP prefix SID, the labels would remain constant. So if you, let's say, if you take from PE5, the label is 1000, then ABR7 would also advertise the same 1000 label. Similarly, ABR5, ABR3, and so on. So you get a deterministic label. So looking when the packet is being forwarded from PE1 to PE5, looking at the label, you can tell where which PE the packet is headed to. So which is kind of an advantage with BGP prefix SID. So BGP LU and BGP prefix SID, they can provide end-to-end connectivity, but still they don't fully solve the use cases which are required for recent technologies such as 5G. We will see what are those requirements and what is the limitation. So the 5G places new requirements on transport networks because of the massive bandwidth requirements and also end-to-end timing and latency requirements. So because of the large scale of the network, you would also require operational simplicity and also the high availability and scalability. Another important requirement is the ability to do end-to-end service differentiation. For example, one path for low cost, another path for low latency, and you could have other kind of path requirements end to end, like certain path, have to exclude red links end to end, and certain other paths have to exclude green links, and so on. So let's see what are the limitations in the existing technologies in order to support these requirements. So BGP LU and BGP prefix SID do provide end-to-end paths, but they provide a single best effort path end-to-end. So like in the previous network diagram, we were seeing that PE1 to PE5, there's only one path that BGP LU or BGP prefix SID can create. So this best path creation is based on BGP protocols best path selection criteria. And other parameters such as low latency path and so on cannot be used. So one of the approaches that operators have been using is, defining multiple loopbacks and then advertising them, on the devices, advertise multiple loopbacks, such as one for low cost, another for low latency, and then, build an end-to-end path which satisfy these. But the problem is there is no easy way to specify best effort. I mean, this path has to use end-to-end low latency, and also the service mapping has to be done, at every border node, and other requirements, like if you have more granular constraints in the core and lesser constraints in the, in the metros, the ability to satisfy those kind of requirements cannot be met with this multiple loopback solution. So we need a mechanism that can simplify 5G transport. So we have this BGP class full transport. This is an extension to BGP protocol to provide multiple paths end to end. So there is no need of a central controller that knows, the topology of all your domains. There is also, you don't expose your internal topology to any other domain in the network. And also this mechanism is kind of transport technology independent, in the sense that, one domain could be deploying segment routing, another could be deploying RSVP. But you will be able to glue these domains with BGP-CT and then provide an end-to-end connection. And with BGP-CT, particularly end-to-end multiple paths. So BGP-CT is very similar to BGP-LU, just that instead of one single path, you will be able to create multiple paths. And those paths will be enumerated, on the basis of endpoint and a color granularity. So this color represents the transport class, in the sense, is it a minimum latency path, or it's a, cheapest monetary cost path, and so on. So the BGP protocol extension is defined in the below mentioned draft in IETF. So this is an example where we have multiple ASs, AS1, AS2, AS3, and we need to build a path from PE1 to PE2, crossing these multiple domains. And then the way BGP-CT provides that is, for example, let's say 10.0.0.1 is a loopback address of PE2, and then internal to each domain from each between each border node, we have this red color and blue color path built. For example, in this first domain, you can see that between PE1 and ASBR1, there is a red color path, and that color is identified using the color 100. And then there is a blue path, which is identified using color 200. And that similarly in every domain, the inter-domain colored transport has been built. And the BGP-CT, what it will do is it will provide an end-to-end path. So it will, for 10.0.0.1, there will be multiple paths, both identified by a label L1 and L2. One path will be for the color 100 and another for the for color 200. So now from PE1, you get multiple paths to PE2, one representing color 100 and another representing color 200. So let us see the details of how the BGP protocol extension looks like and how it is used, right? So the new BGP-CT NLRI consists of a prefix, which is the PE's loopback, and then a route distinguisher. So the route distinguisher is needed so that you can advertise multiple paths to, you can make multiple advertisements to the same loopback. So a route distinguisher will be associated with the NLRI. For example, with red colored path, there will be a route distinguisher 1, and then with a blue colored path, there will be a route distinguisher 2. And then there is a route target community, and this corresponds to the transport class. So for in the previous example, we had this red color 100 and 200 for blue color. So the route target in the first advertisement for red color will be 100, and the route target for the second blue advertisement will be 200, which corresponds to the blue transport class. So you can see that the route target basically represents the transport class membership of the BGP-CT advertisement. So this route distinguisher and route target, this looks similar to VPN advertisement, but it is not. I mean, it does not require any VPN configuration. So the route distinguisher can be picked up automatically, and then the route target will be picked up from the transport class to which the advertisement BGP-CT advertisement corresponds to. So we can also see that in this picture, we can also see that there are red, blue, and green transport ribs. So these transport ribs contain the tunnels for each of the transport class. For example, for both PE5 and PE6, there will be a red tunnel, and that red tunnel would be stored in this red transport rib. And similarly, blue and green and so on. So this one, so the top part of this picture shows the control plane advertisements, and the bottom part shows the the data plane advertisements. So you can see that in the top BGP advertisement. So this is an example for PE5's loopback for the red transport class. So you can see that PE5 and there is an RD. And then in the route target, there is this red transport class. And then PE5 advertises a label L1. And when it comes to ABR7, the next hop changes to ABR7. It does a next hop self. And then the label also changes to L2. And similarly, at every border node, the label changes. The forwarding plane looks exactly similar to BGP LU. So you can see that. So So there is a VPN advertisement. So we can see the VPN prefix is V1 and label LV1 is advertised for that VPN prefix. And then that VPN says it wants to use the red transport class, and that is indicated using a color community. So the color community red is attached with this VPN advertisement. So on the ingress, this VPN prefix will use the red transport class. And in the forwarding plane, you can see that this green is a data packet, original data packet. On that, this VPN label is imposed, which is LV1. And then L5 is imposed, which is a BGP-CT label. And then on top, there is a label MPLS label corresponding to this Metro 1 domain. So here we have taken an example of FlexAlgo, which is segment routing solution for traffic engineering. But this could be any solution such as LDP or RSVP or SRTE and so on. So, the MPLS label for this Metro 1 domain that gets swapped and then that gets popped out when the packet reaches ABR1. So the label L5 gets exposed at ABR1, and that L5 gets swapped with label L4 on ABR1, which is advertised by this ABR3 node. So the packet will go with BGP CT label L4 here between ABR1 and ABR3. At ABR3, the L4 gets swapped with L3, and then additional labels would be pushed. And here we have taken the example of SRTE, which can represent multiple MPLS labels. The path is represented using multiple MPLS labels. And when the packet comes here, the SRTE labels would be popped off and L3 would be exposed, and that gets swapped with L2, and so on. And so when the packet comes to PE5, all the transport labels are removed and the VPN label gets exposed and packet gets forwarded using the VPN label. So we'll briefly see how does the end-to-end resiliency work in this case, right? So for example, if you have built a path PE2 to PE6 here, there are two paths. One is going via the bottom path and another is the top path, which goes through ABR1 and ABR3. And let's say this ABR2, the best path is this PE2 to PE6 is the bottom path, and the traffic is flowing through this. And then if this ABR1 node goes down, then how does the protection work in this case? So what can happen is we can advertise for the prefix of 5050. 5 is the prefix, let's say, and then we advertise this label 505050 for that loopback. So there's an Anycast loopback on PE5, PE6 because they are multi-homing the same service, and we are using this Anycast loopback 5050 between these multi-homed PEs. And then they both the idea here is there is an Anycast prefix and they advertise the same label for that Anycast prefix, and that has been done for ABR 1 and 2 as well. So for the same Anycast prefix, they advertise same PNH, which is 30 30 30, and then they advertise the same label. If you see ABR 1 and ABR 2, both are advertising same protocol next hop, which is an Anycast IP address on ABR 1 and ABR 2, and they are advertising the same label L3. So what happens when ABR2 goes down is the protection mechanisms within this Metro 1 domain, they will switch the traffic, like for this is a penultimate PLR router. So what it does is it switches the traffic on to ABR1 because they are using this 30 30 30 as the Anycast IP address. So they'll switch the traffic to ABR1. When the traffic comes to ABR1, they have advertised the same label L3 for the red tunnels. So ABR1 would continue to forward the traffic on red tunnels. So that's how you get protection, and then end-to-end path will adhere to the red constraints, and they will use this red transport class. So we'll quickly see some of the use cases. These are real life use cases, where BGP-CT can be used. So this is an example where, there is a requirement that, A and C are nodes A and C are located in a certain geographical region of a particular country, which needs to be avoided for all the traffic that is originating from PE1 and going to PE2. So these constraints, because this is geographical location constraint, these are not applicable to these two ASs because these two are geographically in a different continent, and those constraints are not applicable. So let's see how this can be solved using BGP-CT. So we create a red LSP in this AS3 domain, which avoids this node A and C. So from ASBR4 to PE2, it goes through ASBR4 from to D to then PE2, and then it avoids nodes A and C at all the costs. And you can use existing transport mechanism, either FlexAlgo or SRTE or RSVP, any of those mechanisms to create that path from ASBR4 to PE2. Now, once this gets created here on ASBR4, and you have enabled this, let's call this a red transport class. And then if you have configured a red transport class here, when the LSP becomes up on this ASBR4 for that particular endpoint, which is PE2, BGP-CT will automatically advertise that um, uh, a label to that PE2 for red transport class. It will advertise that to ASBR3, and then ASBR3 will advertise to ASBR2, and so on. ASBR2 will advertise to ASBR1, and ASBR1 will advertise to PE1. So we don't have those red LSPs in AS1 and AS2, and it is not required in these two domains. So what happens is in these two domains, we will have a policy that for red transport class, if there is a red LSP available, take those red LSPs, and if not, take the best effort path in these two ASs. Whereas in AS3, we have a very strict policy where red transport class must take red transport tunnel, and if it is not there, it should drop the traffic. So now we built an end-to-end path from PE1 to PE2 using BGP-CT that gives that satisfies these strictly satisfies these avoid node A and C in AS3, and it takes best effort paths in AS1 and AS2. So this is sort of very simple solution that can provide end-to-end path where there are some strict constraints to be satisfied in some remote AS. So this is a quick, explanation of how exactly the BGP CT advertisement look like for this use case that we discussed. So you can see that PE2, so it advertises for the red transport class a label L1, and then ASBR4 advertises a label L2, and then puts itself as the next hop self. And you can see that in this AS3 domain, it will use this red red LSP that avoids uh, the nodes which have this geographical constraint. And in AS1 and AS2, it takes best effort path, and you can see that BGP-CT is advertising from every from ASBR to ASBR, and then on PE1 you have an end-to-end path, and this is what shows the forwarding plane path where you have a data packet. This is a VPN label, and then there is a BGP-CT label, and every domain in AS1 and AS2 it's using an IGP label, and here we have taken an example of FlexAlgo label that satisfies the constraints. So another use case is end-to-end low latency. So we can see that BGP has this AIGP attribute which carries accumulated metric, and there is an extension in this draft mentioned here, which has a sub TLV defined for AIGP's attribute, which carries low latency metric end-to-end. So we can see that here there are two paths which both are doing low latency end to end. So we can see from PE2 to PE6 there's a bottom path and there's a top path, and then the latency metric is getting accumulated in every domain. So you can see this is 10 and 10, and when it comes here, this path, it becomes 12 here, and this is 5 milliseconds, so it adds to 15 milliseconds. And from in the core, the top part is 20 and then bottom part is also 20, so that it gets added and so on. So when it comes to PE2, the best path selection here will be based on the latency, accumulated latency metric. So you can see that the top path is 42 and the bottom is 35. So the bottom path is the lowest latency path and that gets selected. And when there is a change in latency, for example, the core path, due to there is some path change in the core and then the latency of this bottom path increases, then that BGP CT advertisement will be updated with the changed latency metric, and so the PE2 will now do based on the latest metric and then divert the traffic accordingly. Yeah, so that's all I had. And I'm ready to take any questions.
Thank you, Shraddha. Thank you for that. We will now go through the questions, but before we do that, we're going to have the poll come up onto the screen so that we can get some feedback on your presentation. The question that we have is from Blake Willis, and the question says, does BGP-CT support bandwidth constraints like RSVP-TE? Any other major functional differences versus inter-domain RSVP?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So BGP CT inherently doesn't support bandwidth management end-to-end. So you can use any bandwidth management mechanism within the domain, like you can use RSVP within the domain, or you can use any controller-based bandwidth management mechanism inside the domain. The end-to-end, the BGP CT does not have end-to-end visibility. It is just kind of a stitching protocol at the borders. And it will not be able to provide the bandwidth management end-to-end. So what it can do is, let's say you want a 10 gig LSP. So you create, within each domain, you create LSPs which says, which provides you a 10 gig bandwidth guarantee inside each domain. And now BGP CT can stitch, and you color all these 10 gig LSPs as red color. And then what BGP CT can do is it can stitch these 10 gig LSPs together and give you an end-to-end path. So what you essentially get is an end-to-end path that satisfies bandwidth within your within each of your domain. Yeah. So the second part of your question was what is it that how is it different from inter-domain RSVP? So I think basically inter-domain RSVP can provide you best bandwidth management across these domains, which probably BGP-CT cannot do. But the advantage of using BGP-CT is the large scale. So if you have thousands of nodes in your networks, in tens of thousands, it's very hard to run RSVP end to end in such a large scale and be able to do computation and place the paths. Whereas if you split it into multiple domains and connect them using BGP, you get a very manageable end-to-end path end-to-end path. And BGP CT especially has the ability to stitch the colored paths and then provide you end-to-end colored paths. So that's the advantage.
Thank you so much, Shraddha. There is feedback from Blake Willis. He says, so basically it's up to the PCEP to manage the underlying bandwidth and BGP-CT manages the stitching. Makes sense. Thanks, Shraddha.
Thank you.
And that is all the questions that we have. Thank you so much once again for all the questions. And thank you once again, Shraddha. I'll hand it over back to Marek.